Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank our hosts for the invitation for me to speak in front of you today. I will provide my perspectives about European security and trends and prospects. I'm speaking as a private American citizen and not as a representative of my government or institute. My comments are primarily for our host nation, but I believe they are relevant for everyone here as well. It is timely we are meeting less than a week after President Biden and President Putin met in Geneva. While there was a lot of disagreement, most importantly, they met and spoke directly, frankly, and respectfully. To me, the summit was a careful success for both sides, especially as our presidents agreed on some tangible actions. Only time and actions will tell if there will be any improvement in our relations and cooperation. I sincerely hope so. I am well aware we have been on this road several times before. For my Russian counterparts, I have a long history. Over 32 years of direct interaction professionally and personally with your proud nation and citizens. This began during the fading years of the Cold War when in 1989, as a young US Army officer, I received a visa from the Soviet Union to study Russian language and culture with an American student group in provincial Kalinin, now Tver. I've returned numerous times since that memorable summer. I value my friendships here and appreciate your culture and history. Therefore, I'm very aware this is a solemn remembrance period in your long history. Exactly 80 years ago, the bloodiest conflict in modern history, the Great Patriotic War, expanded with the brutal Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union on June 22nd. I was here also in 1991, for the 50th anniversary, when there were still many proud veterans present, bedecked, wearing their rows of hard-earned medals and orders. We have so few of them left in all our countries today. We must never forget that the US and free Western nations became crucial allies with the Soviet Union during this titanic struggle. Your citizens' sacrifices, all 15 republics, Russia, were beyond comprehension. As the American defense attaché to Russia between 2012 and 14, it was a challenging period, I had the honor to stand with your citizens, including many veterans, at Stalingrad, Volgograd, Kursk, Leningrad, St. Petersburg, and here in Moscow during their 70th anniversary commemorations. Despite our differences, we learned to work closely together against a common existential cause. I believe we can do this again to face today's formidable challenges, which is why I stand before you now. The peaceful but stressed Europe today is not that of the threatening 1930s. Defying the odds, no major conflict since 1945 has broken the entire European continent as it did in 1914 and 1939. Somehow, we all survived the Cold War with several frightening near misses. Do we dare risk this again today with even more lethal nuclear systems and now an increasingly uncontrolled menu of ultra-modern and new age, easy-to-mask cyber technologies? We talk now about re-entering a multipolar arena of great power, competition, rivals, and threats. Where does that end? When the threat can come cyber fast from different actors, directions, and dimensions. Most urgently, with our mutually wise decision to extend New Start. Thank God, we did it, we extended it. For 5 years, we have a rare, probably final opportunity to get at the critical issues, existential issues of strategic stability. Both presidents committed to this difficult task that can only succeed with a renewed commitment towards hard problem-solving dialogue and measures aimed at building trust and transparency. Somehow we did this deep in the Cold War. Can we do it now? Complicating all is the rise of dangerous new technologies, including cyber, AI, new nuclear and conventional long-range precision weapons that must be addressed. As the world's two leading nuclear superpowers, we both have the responsibility to get this right. Could there, in the future, be an eventual role for a reluctant China, People's Republic of China? Only time will tell. But, and I have to say this, offsetting our mutual New START achievement is the corrosive cyber situation that, whether state-directed or criminal, has become intolerable for my nation and much of the world. President Biden was very clear on this. It should be equally intolerable for all the states represented here. Criminals, such as those who made the ransomware attack on the U.S. Colonial Gas Pipeline, proved that their malign activities could produce dangerous strategic effects, and I underline strategic. Cyber criminals should not have sanctuary here in Russia, my country, or anywhere else. I ask, how does a sovereign nation with a lot of capability, such as my country, respond to such state or criminal acts against it and our close allies, especially if sensitive infrastructure or governance is disrupted, or worse, innocent civilians die from them? How together can we get this lethally emergent threat under control? And this is a global issue. I used to think the most dangerous scenario is an unintentional accident or incident anywhere in the world that puts our heavily armed, nuclear-tipped militaries into dangerous confrontation. I still do. But even more frighteningly, could a fast-breaking nuclear crisis emerge from a surprise cyber event with strategic effects? Something for all of us to think about. As a longtime NATO advocate, I've always believed there is a path towards a credible, less stressful coexistence with Russia, and I've written about this a lot. What will it take for NATO and the European Union to be seen by Russia and other nations as a force for stability in contemporary Europe and not viewed as a threat? And the same goes for Europe and the United States and how they see Russia. Could a stable European peace, I ask you just think about it, could actually be positive long-term for Russia too? You understand existential history better than anyone. I ask you, looking into the generation, and I'm going to get a lot of disagreement here, do you really believe Russia, the world in that fact, would be safer in a world without NATO? What would come in its place? Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does power. From a defense security perspective, we must find ways such as the annual still-convened Incidents at Sea conference to deepen transparency and trust among key leaders and staff. The NATO-Russia Council should be re-energized. Major military exercises, along with their size and scope, must be consistently announced in advance. Would crisis management and trust improve with better links, not just between our capitals, but also between strategic nuclear headquarters and worldwide through Russian military districts, OSKs, and U.S. geographic combatant commands, and this could, of course, be alliance as well. And I look to the day when our senior military leaders, such as our chairman and your chief of the general staff, or our Minister of Defense Austin, and your Minister of Defense Shoigu actually meet and talk. And it'll be a hard discussion, I'm sure, but out of it will at least come more understanding about each other's positions. And such a thing would then blow oxygen into our militaries and get the type of exchanges that a number of us remember 10 to 20 years ago. It wasn't perfect, but we had something there. I'm just about finished. A few other points follow, mostly discussed by our presidents. We must strive to limit the militarization of the Arctic. The 8-nation Arctic Council should have the lead for this. Violence inside Ukraine should cease in order to let the existing multinational political diplomatic process established within the Minsk Accord continue. Other areas, among many, for enhanced security dialogue and coordination should be climate change worldwide, especially in the melting high north, countering the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and global terror. Build on existing cooperation, not militarization in outer space. The United States and Russia are both spacefaring nations, and we have a long history together since 1975, and we shouldn't let that flicker out. Enhanced humanitarian efforts regarding Syria, ensuring complex situations such as Eastern Europe, Mediterranean, and the Black Sea do not create inadvertent regional confrontation. Pandemic cooperation, not competition. And what's next for Afghanistan and the Central Asian region as the US and allied forces withdraw? And we really are withdrawing. Today, despite our major policy challenges, it seems that the stress and distrust that today engulfs the US, Russia, and Europe relation is as much rooted in perception and historical baggage as real tangible issues. But misguided perception, fueled by opportunism and divisive gray zone messaging, can be lethal even if either of our sides desire crisis or conflict. I close. During this World War II remembrance period, let's remember how, despite our differences, we learned to work closely together, facing a common existential threat. In this spirit, I deeply hope we can pull together, face today's challenges, all of us here, with our allies, friends, and even competitors, to build a better, safer world for our grandchildren. Thank you very, very much.